or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Lenny Mann, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The water sessions are not a debate or forum. This is from Wednesday, July 1st, Observer. More information about Fredonia's July 9th water project presentation came out over the weekend in a very modern way. An email thread. News media, Fredonia officials, and members of Save Our Reservoir, the group that opposes Village Hall's plans to ditch the reservoir and buy water elsewhere, were copied on the email. It stemmed from questions that Save Our Reservoir Andrew Ludwig had about the presentation. Trustee Ben Brouchler replied first with a disclaimer that he was not making official statements. Ludwig queried, "Will the forum start with a presentation to be followed by a question and answer period?" Bruckner replied, "I expect this will be the format." And Ludwig wondered if only Fredonia residents could speak or ask questions. "I don't see why any legitimate question from anyone would not be answered," Bruckner said. Another Ludwig question: how will the public submit their questions and concerns to be addressed at this meeting? Bruckler's response is, "I would hope that we collect questions in writing from people attending. I expect we will have someone with note cards available." Bruckner added later, "I would oppose allowing any member of the public to speak, and I would suggest that repetitive questions only be addressed once." He, quote, "had not a clue," unquote, as to whether Fredonia Public Access would broadcast the event. Ludwig also asked, if inaccurate statements are made by presenters, how will it be possible for members of the audience to immediately address those inaccuracies without being found to be out of order at this meeting? Bruckner said, "I don't see where this is an option at all. If you find inaccurate statements, make your case in another form. Write to the paper, perhaps." And asked if people would make statements, Bruckner offered back, "Not if I have anything to say about it. You have freedom of speech, but we do not owe you a forum." Trustee Paul Wandel subsequently offered his own response to Ludwig's inquiries. This public information session will be held Thursday, July 9th from 5:30 to 7 at 10410 Chestnut Road, which is the location of the new town of Pomfret Town Hall, he stated. Most importantly, the format of this event is a one-on-one dialogue, informal, with representatives from various entities, which include the Village of Fredonia, LaBelle Engineering, North County Water District, and Chautauqua County Department of Health. Wandel continued, "This event is open to the public, independent of where you live. Any questions from the public regarding the Fredonia Water Source Project will be answered hopefully by our representatives and through informal, personal dialogue. Since this is not a debate or forum, I am not sure of the value of publicly broadcasting it. However, I will check with our cable board. I will underscore that this is a civil, orderly event and that it will be maintained for the period of the event." Here is Ludwig's response to Wandel in full. "Please clarify your statements below. Are you saying that no questions from the public will be taken in any form during your water meeting? Why would you not want this meeting broadcast and recorded by Fredonia Access and then posted on YouTube? It calls into question the reasons for and value of having the meeting in the first place. If this is an informational meeting, why wouldn't you want to spread the value of the information being given far and wide? And why is this meeting being held at the newly located Pomfret Town Hall outside the village of Fredonia and not in the Opera House? Wandel noted the event is a public information session, not a forum or opera house style event. It is simply one-on-one dialogues between various water project representatives. I inquired if it could be videoed and received an affirmative that it could. I am more than agreeable to have the public view it online via a link on the village website. Nothing more. Wandel responded Tuesday, and Brockler's statements came in late Sunday morning. A 3-day 4th of July fest begins Thursday in the city. A 3-day 4th of July celebration with live music, food, and refreshment vendors and annual firework displays kicks off on the Dunkirk's waterfront from Thursday to Saturday. On Thursday, music will be provided by Hints of Thunder at 6 p.m., followed by Sean Patrick McGraw at 7:15 in Memorial Park. The music is sponsored by Owl Homes of Fredonia, while the overall presenters include APG, Van Buren Drive-In, National Grid. Our stage is sponsored by DFT Communications and PD Tents. On Friday, music will be provided by Tiny Music at 5 p.m., followed by Two for Flinching, 7:15 in Memorial Park. Vendors will be open at 5 p.m. on both Thursday and Friday. On Friday, vendors start at 11 on the 4th of July with entertainers Screaming East at 1:30 p.m., Prestige Worldwide Band at 4 p.m., and One, a tribute to U2 at 6:30 p.m. in Memorial Park. The night concludes with the singing of the national anthem by Kathy Rutsch and a special Independence Day 250th anniversary radio broadcast with WDOE 101.5 FM and 1410 AM, followed by the Starfire Corporation fireworks, the largest fireworks display in Chautauqua County. Silver Creek is celebrating quote-unquote coaches at graduation. Silver Creek Central School District celebrated its 74th annual commencement by encouraging the 64 graduating seniors to put in the hard work and seize the day. On Friday, the class of 2026 proceeded to the stage to the tune of Pomp and Circumstance, and the program began with the national anthem sung by senior chorus members. A traditional Seneca opening performed by senior Amira Warrior and encouragement in Seneca was said by Hali Raijibe. The senior chorus also performed the song Time by Lucy Cook. Superintendent Dr. Katie Ralston welcomed the graduates and their families, offering advice from the song For Good from the musical Wicked. Look around at your classroom mates. Look at the families, teachers, friends, and mentors who helped you reach this moment. Every one of them has shaped who you are, and you have shaped us. Let them help you. Help them in return, she said. Salutatorian Samuel Bowers thanked the teachers, coaches, mentors, and family members who supported the class of 2026 on their journey. All of us reached this point in our own way, and that is incredible. Some of us gained determination through athletics. Some of us became perfectionists through academics, and some of us have already started to master our trades. We have all grown as people in our own ways. If there's one thing that I've learned these last few years of high school is this: getting knocked down only hurts if you don't get back up stronger, he said. Valedictorian Nathan Cross explained that he had no new advice for his peers, that they had not already learned from the life coaches they had had throughout the last 4 years. Our teachers taught us math, English, history, and science, but in reality they taught us much more than that, he said. They taught us confidence by believing in us before we believed in ourselves. They challenged us because they knew we were capable of more than we thought. And most importantly, they celebrated our accomplishments, making us feel proud of what we've done. Years from now, I probably won't remember every equation I solved or every essay I've written, but I'll remember the teachers who expected more from me than I expected from myself. Teachers weren't their only life coaches, Cross said, also thanking family and friends. Our families and friends have been some of the greatest life coaches we could ask for, not because they always had the perfect advice, but because they were simply there for us. They listened when we needed someone to talk to and reminded us that we never had to face challenges alone, he said. So tonight, on behalf of the class of 2026, I'd like to thank all of our life coaches who took on this role whether they realized it or not. Because of them, something happened that we probably didn't even notice. We became experts. Dr. John Falcone, class of 1998, valedictorian, addressed the class of 2026. Falcone attended Cornell University and the University of Pittsburgh to go on to become a surgeon. He was active in cross country and music when he attended SCCS and continues both hobbies as a marathon runner and a musician for an independent Christian rock music ministry called Falcone Rising. My piece of advice for you guys is to keep an open mind when it comes to the future. When I was in kindergarten, I wanted to be a bus driver. That's what I wanted to do. But keep an open mind. At class night, I didn't know what I was going to do when I was older. I probably would have said that I was going to be a math, physics, or science teacher. I didn't know. I just kept an open mind. It was in my college years that I got very close to my grandmother, who had ovarian cancer, and that turned my eyes towards the medical field. I got into a really good medical school, and if you would have asked me what kind of doctor I was going to be my first day, I would have said, I don't know. And at the end of it, surgery was just the best fit for me. If you think about it, I do bring 2 of my kids to and from school a couple of days a week. So I kind of am a part-time bus driver. I have medical students in surgical training with me during the course of the year, and so I am a teacher. So I kind of am all the things I thought I would be, just not the way I thought. The ceremony ended with diplomas and handshakes from the Board of Education and Principal Heather Kristofek led the traditional turning of the tassels. Take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. Think back to your first school days and look at yourselves now, confident, accomplished, and ready to make your mark on the world. That transformation didn't happen by accident. It came from your hard work, your willingness to learn, and your courage. The article is accompanied by a picture of the class of 2026 tossing their graduation hats into the air at the Silver Creek School. Judges are to be required to visit jails, by John Whitaker. Judges serving in criminal and family courts will be required to visit a prison, jail, or other detention centers starting in January 2028. The rule was announced recently by the State Unified Court System under rules being implemented by Judge Rowan Masters, the state's chief judge. The rule would make New York the first state in the nation to mandate immersive yearly visits by all trial court judges responsible for sentencing or detention decisions. This rule keeps judges better connected to what transpires after sentencing. It deepens a judge's first-hand understanding of prison conditions and the broad impact of incarceration on individuals, families, and communities, as well as the opportunities available during incarceration, said Chief Judge Rowan D. Wilson. The revised rule embodies the principle that judges are not distant arbitrators, but engaged stewards of justice, whose thoughtful determinations are grounded in reality. By doing so, it promotes confidence in the judiciary, not merely in those who are incarcerated or their families, but also in the public at large. Justice may be depicted as blind, but should not blind itself to reality. Under the new Part 17, judicial visits to facilities will include opportunities for meaningful time in key areas such as intake, housing, work education, recreation, visitation, dining, and medical and mental health facilities. Judges will also have an opportunity to meet with incarcerated individuals, employees, administrators, and service providers. Additionally, visits will rotate among facility sites, including state prisons, local jails, and youth and women's facilities, in accordance with judicial assignments as delineated in the amended rules and to the extent practicable across regions of the state. Repair work is continuing on Dunkirk's breakwater. The Dunkirk Outer Breakwater Rehabilitation Project continues this summer as the first phase of repairs nears completion. The breakwater is critical to safe navigation in Dunkirk Harbor and has sustained damage from years of wave and ice exposure. The first phase of repairs fixed approximately 1,850 feet of the structure, with the second phase ongoing now through November 2026 to repair the remaining 450 feet. $4.5 million awarded for the second phase of repairs to the Dunkirk breakwater. Construction will continue through November. The breakwater is critical to the project harbor operations, waterfront recreation, and safe refuge for Great Lakes vessels. It is a critical component of the Great Lakes navigation system, supporting economic growth in the local economy, said Lieutenant Colonel Aaron Anderson, USACE Buffalo District Commander. We look forward to delivering this project on time and within budget, ensuring Dunkirk's waterfront continues serving the local community and country. The full project is expected to be completed by November. Repairs included reinforcing the breakwater with stone and raising the crest elevation to improve long-term stability. The project is fully federally funded, including a $9.1 million first phase contract and an additional $1.9 million for the second phase. Construction is not expected to impact harbor navigation. Boaters are advised to stay clear of the construction equipment and vessels. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. Hanover tries again on hotel plans by Braden Carmen. If you're wondering whatever happened to the thought of a hotel coming to Hanover, you're not alone. The town board is wondering the same thing. Councilman Ed Shishnitzus has been reaching out to developers that once expressed an interest in the project. Lately, he can't even get somebody to pick up the phone. We had a company come in, really moving fast, trying to get things done, and all of a sudden, everything stopped, Shinnichius said. We met with them. They had a plan, and they wanted to get a grant to do everything. Evidently, there were no grants out there for what they wanted to do, so they just kind of disappeared. I don't know why this company just disappeared and won't answer my phone. He first called for a hotel along Routes 5 and 20 several years ago and often reiterated his support for the idea. With Hanover being a popular destination for fishermen every year, with notable fishing tournaments each summer, the need for a hotel is evident. The targeted area is along routes 5 and 20, which is just off the thruway. Adding a hotel could bring in tourists just looking for a place to stay the night when they're passing through, or for events in town like fishing tournaments, golf tournaments, or even school graduations. I've had fishermen from all over the country this past spring that come up here fishing out on Lake Erie. They say this is one of the places, but they have no place to stay. They have to go to Hamburg or Dunkirk, and it's very disappointing. We need a hotel up on Route 5 and 20, and we've proven why. Town Supervisor Lou Pelletier agreed. He has been pushing for a hotel in Hanover since 2017. Pelletier believes a hotel would serve as an anchor in the region. Comments made by Pelletier and Shiznatis previously caught the attention of a developer who reached out to the town, which prompted the board to hire Spurrier Consulting to conduct a feasibility study on the matter. The town chose Spurrier due to its prior experience with hotel management. According to a travel research trend report conducted as part of the study, excluding rental properties, the nearest lodging for guests of the town of Hanover is 12 to 13 miles away. Hotel rates from Dunkirk, Fredonia, Hamburg, and Lackawanna were analyzed, and several brand-named hotels were evaluated. As stated in the conclusion of the report, after analyzing the area, we strongly believe that a hotel is not just a luxury, but a necessity for the community. Spurrier Consulting recommended an 80-room hotel for the area, with 7 brands identified as potential suitors: Best Western, Comfort Inn, Country Inn, Sleep Inn, Fairfield Inn, Hampton Inn, and Holiday Inn Express. According to the report, 3 of the 7 brands typically require more than 70 rooms, while the other 4 brands are typically willing to house fewer than 70 rooms. And according to the report, Chautauqua County is a stable and secure location for the proposed hotel due to what was defined as a good industrial base with numerous recreational venues. Shintius said he hopes the town can identify other interested parties to move forward with a hotel development along routes 5 and 20. The feasibility study was distributed to 12 hotel developers and posted on the town's website for anyone to view. Additionally, Attorney John Grinnell attended a meeting regarding an assessment review of Rite Aid in the village of Silver Creek, which was closed this past year due to bankruptcy. He said of the meeting, nothing was accomplished. Polls show Hochul grows in a lead for governor. It appears that the challenger for the top spot in New York State is failing to gain ground on the incumbent through the spring. In the head-to-head matchup, Governor Kathy Hochul increased her lead to 20 points over Bruce Blakeman, 52 to 32%, from 16 points, 49 to 33%, in April. Hochul has a 43 to 44% favorability rating, up a little from 41 to 46 in April, and her job approval rating is 53 to 42%, up from 48 to 44% in April. Nassau County Executive Blakeman also saw his favorability improve to 25 to 21% from 17 to 19% in April. Governor Hochul now has a break-even favorability rating, and a majority of voters approve of the job she's doing as governor. Hochul gained a little ground against Blakeman, who, despite having his best ever favorability rating, still has a majority of voters not knowing him or not knowing enough about him to have an opinion. Her lead is now 20 points, up from 16 points, Siena pollster Stephen Greenberg said. While 78% of the Democrats favor Hochul and 79% of the Republicans support Blakeman, independents now lean toward Hochul by 5 points after tilting toward Blakeman by 2 points in April. She has also widened her lead in the downstate suburbs from 4 points in April to 11 points today, Greenberg said. Hochul has a better than 3-1 lead in New York City, and she and Blakeman are virtually tied upstate. The cost of living was most identified as the most important issue facing New Yorkers by 53% of the voters, and one of the two most important by 77%. Affordable housing finished second, 13% as the top issue, and 30% top two issues, followed by crime. Immigration, Iran, and the environment were each identified as the top issue by fewer than 10% of voters, and a top two issue by fewer than 1/4. Voters say the proposed constitutional amendment to allow for both mid-decade redistricting and partisan map drawing is bad for New York. A clear majority of voters think the cost of living is the most important issue they are facing, and an overwhelming majority, 77%, say it is one of the two most important issues for New York. Greenberg said a majority or large plurality of Democrats, Republicans, independents, upstaters, and downstaters, men and women, young and old, black, Latino, or white, all say that the cost of living is the most important issue. At least 72% of each of those groups of voters say the cost of living is one of the two most important issues. Now, while affordable housing and crime are the second and third most important issues, they are also the next two for most demographic groups, although the order varies. They are a distant second and third. Slightly fewer than 1/3 of New Yorkers think crime is one of the two most important issues. Only 11% say it's the top issue. A far cry from the banner headline issue it was just a few years ago. Leases are in limbo at the boardwalk, by M.J. Stafford. Just one business at the Dunkirk boardwalk has a current lease, and city officials want to change that. The Spike's Daily Pub/Restaurant recently renewed its lease, but none of the other businesses have an up-to-date agreement with the city. Council members have expressed concern about the situation recently, and it came up again at last week's Finance Committee meeting. Fiscal Affairs Officer Ellen Louisiak said City Hall needs to get some dollar amounts from Council. In other words, council members need to tell her how much they want the leaseholders to pay. Councilman Frank Torian said he has talked to Mayor Kate Wodzik about the situation. She is waiting for the numbers to move forward. Deputy Department of Public Works Director warned that one of the boardwalk's units needs a new air conditioner, which should be taken into account when coming up with the leases. They were designed to be gift shops, not restaurants. Dunkirk officials acknowledge that City Hall's legal representation turnover in the last few years has contributed to the situation. The city attorney position was held by Mitch Morissero and Michael Bobsine in 2023 and 24 before Elliot Raimondo took over. First on his own, then as a member of contracted law firm Raimondo and Sundquist. As a side note, the Presbyterian disparaged the LED sign in front of the boardwalk. He said former Recreation Director Hector purchased it with a grant, but it was obsolete even when it was installed. The sign no longer works correctly and probably should be scrapped. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Waging awareness. County CSEA members defend their positions and pay. The article is by Gregory Bacon. From Mayville, Chautauqua County works because CSEA works. That appeared to be the main message that was brought to county legislators Monday as more than a dozen CSEA employees appeared at the legislature's monthly meeting. Bonnie Peters, who is the treasurer of CSEA Unit 6300, said their numbers decided to show up at Wednesday's meeting following a comment made last month. Some of our members were at the last meeting, and it was brought back to us that one of the legislators indicated that a study should be done on our salaries and that it is possible that we make too much. The county legislature did not pass any resolutions to form a committee to examine the salaries of union employees. In May, there were 2 resolutions that were rejected. One, to eliminate annual raises for county legislators, and the second one, to reduce the pay of the Chautauqua County Clerk, who is an elected official. During the debate, legislator John Penhallow, a Republican from Stockton, stated, "I'm open to a discussion in committees about reducing spending. I think we can all sit here and talk like this, but at the end of the day, what are we going to cut? Either we pick up on efficiency or we cut labor." Following Penhallow's comments, legislator Fred Johnson, the Republican from Westfield, added, "If we cut everybody's salaries, legislatures, and everyone up and down will save some real money, and I'm all for it." During the second privilege of the floor of Wednesday's meeting, Peters said they had a number of members who wanted to speak. The group was invited to the floor to share their comments. There were 15 members present, although not all of them spoke. First to address the legislature was Samantha Stokes of Dunkirk, an emergency medical services paramedic for the county. Unquote, "The establishment of a county-run EMS sent a message to emergency medical services that it's not just a job, it's a profession. Having a union job with a pension was a significant step forward for us. However, even with that step in the right direction, we continue to face serious recruitment and retention challenges," unquote, she said. According to Stokes, the county emergency medical services has been losing staff to other agencies who pay more or who offer better work-life balance. "Many of us who work for CCEMS have to work 2 or even 3 jobs in order to support our families," she said. Stokes noted how, quote, "emergencies do not stop at nights, on weekends, on holidays, or even during severe weather," unquote. She implored the legislature to ensure county employees are paid fairly. "I respectfully ask you to continue supporting the county workforce and reject efforts that would move employees' compensation backwards," she said. Travis Wise of Sherman also spoke. He is a member of the county's Department of Public Facilities. Quote, "The Highway Division is responsible for maintaining more than 555 miles of county roads and over 7,000 road signs. In 2002, that work was performed by approximately 261 employees. Today, that number has shrunk to just 112. That means fewer employees are being asked to do more work than ever before, whether it's paving the roads in the summer, responding to storms, maintaining county facilities, operating carts, keeping our airports running, or working around the clock during winter weather events. We seem to get a lot of those. County employees continue to show up and get the job done, unquote. Wise called on the legislature to continue its support of the Highway Department. As a proud Chautauqua County resident, county employee, CSEA member, I ask that you support the people who maintain our roads, operate our services, and keep this county moving forward every day, he said. Following the 10-minute presentation, Legislature Chairman Pierre Chagnon, Republican of Ellery, thanked everyone who spoke, but offered no further comment. None of the other legislators spoke publicly following the CSEA presentation, although a number of them were seen after the meeting talking privately to various union employees. Options remain for the former NRG plant, by Gregory Bacon. It's possible the former NRG plant could be repurposed or even torn down. During the recent Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency Board of Directors meeting, Chief Executive Officer Mark Geis noted how the former NRG plant is now owned by Genover. The Boring, Texas company has a history of purchasing and finding solutions for former power plants and industrial facilities. In most cases, they demo the sites, they clean them up, and they repurpose them for a data site, repowering, or other economic, developmental, industrial developmental purposes, Geis said, adding, certainly nuclear power is one possibility. At one point, there had been a lot of talk of the former NRG plant becoming a micronuclear facility. Last December, Dunkirk Planning and Development Director Vince DeJoy submitted an application expressing interest in a state-backed nuclear project in the city. Because of this interest, last year, State Senator George Borrello had arranged for a quote-unquote local leaders nuclear 101 forum, unquote, to take place, which is set for Tuesday. Geis will be master of ceremonies for the event. As New York State moves forward with efforts to advance next-generation nuclear energy, Dunkirk has emerged as one of the communities being discussed as a possible host location. Given the potential implications for our region, it is important that local leaders have an understanding of what the technology, the opportunities it could create, and the questions that come with it, Borrello wrote in a letter. The forum will feature experts in nuclear energy, economic development, labor, and finance who will discuss topics including how advanced nuclear reactors work and how they differ from conventional plants, safety and waste management, workforce opportunities, and project financing. In a separate interview, Borrello said the forum is for local business people and elected officials to help them understand the pros and cons. There's an organization called Nuclear New York. They are a not-for-profit organization that is basically answering questions about nuclear power, he said. Borrello said while he supports nuclear energy, he admits that it would be a long time before any kind of plant could ever be built anywhere in the state, including Dunkirk. When discussing the possibility of the former NRG plant becoming a data center, Geis noted that the state legislature has proposed a one-year moratorium on any new data centers in the state. That legislation has yet to be signed by Governor Kathy Hochul. Geis said the moratorium, if enacted, would be in place so the state could look at peak electricity needs, potential environmental impact, its alignment with climate goals, and other issues. Millions are dropping Obamacare. About 3 million fewer people in the United States had Affordable Care Act health insurance plans in February compared with the same time last year, according to new federal data. In the report released Friday, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services suggested the 13% drop in enrollment from 22.1 million people in 2025 to 19.2 million this year could be attributed to a federal crackdown on fraudulent or quote-unquote phantom enrollment. but health analysts said it was more likely to be related to the January 1st expiration of federal subsidies, which caused a surge in plan costs that resulted in many people being unable to pay their premiums. We know that real people lost their health insurance coverage, said Cynthia Cox, a vice president and director of the ACA program at the healthcare research nonprofit KFF, citing survey findings on people who had left their plans. This coverage loss happened at the same time millions of people faced double or even triple-digit increases in their premium payments. A Sheridan winery is fined $1,000 for missed water reports, by Gregory Bacon. A winery in the northern end of the county has once again been fined after missing multiple water reports. During the Chautauqua County Board of Health meeting, it was announced that there were 11 agreements to settle for public water supply violations. All businesses cited are on private well water and are required to do various reporting. Most of the businesses or organizations fined were for one or two reports missing. Woodbury Vineyards, however, was cited for missing its fifth report from 2025. Justin Ortel, DBA of Woodbury Vines at 3215 S. Roberts Road in the town of Sheridan, was fined $1,000 for failure to submit results of microbiological minimum monitoring requirements for their public water supply for the month of December to the county health department. Jessica Worstel with the county health department said by signing an agreement to settle, an establishment is admitting guilt. If the establishment does not feel they should have been fined, they could appear before a hearing officer. In the case of Woodbury Vineyards, Worstel said they are permitted by the State Agriculture and Markets Division. However, the county, in the case of Woodbury Vineyards, Worstel said, they are permitted by the State Agricultural and Markets Division. However, the county is required to ensure their public water supply is safe. She has been in contact with the state agency regarding the missed reports. Woodbury Vineyards has been cited and fined in the past. In April, it was reported that Woodbury Vineyards requested to go before the hearing officer but did not appear. They were fined $650. In October of 2023, it was reported that Woodbury Vineyards was fined $2,800 for multiple missed reports. Worstel said if Woodbury has paid its fines in the past, she added that the fines for missed samples will continue to go up. Other violators include Bemis Point Lodge on South Herald Avenue, Bemis Point, Bustye Tap House on Bustye Sugar Grove, Jamestown, and Old Chautauqua Vineyards. They were all cited for failure to submit results of microbiological minimum monitoring requirements for their public water supplies for the fourth quarter of 2025. Bemis Point Lodge and Bustye Tap House were both fined $200, while Old Chautauqua Vineyards was fined $400 because this was their second miss in 2025. Peak and Peak Recreation on Old Road Climber was cited for failure to submit results of minimum disinfection byproducts, stage 2 monitoring requirements for their public water supply, and they were fined $500. Bemis Point Veterans Club on Dutch Hollow Road, Bemis Point, Bourne's Beach Association on East Lake Road, Westfield, and others were all cited for failure to submit results of minimum nitrate monitoring requirements for their public water supply. Each was fined $200. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. A Texas data center is going to use Cummins natural gas generators. by John Whitaker. With New York poised to delay construction of data centers for a year, Cummins Incorporated is profiting from the growth of data centers in Texas. Cummins Incorporated recently announced an agreement with Cersei Energy to provide a series of high-powered, high-efficiency natural gas generators sets to support a scalable behind-the-meter prime power microgrid solution for Cersei Energy's high-performance computing data center in Texas. Deliveries are scheduled from 2026 through 2030 and will include Cummins' generators on set platforms. Texas's main grid operators predicts power demand will nearly double by 2030, in part due to more requests to plug into the grid from large users like data centers, crypto mining facilities, hydrogen production plants, and oil and gas companies, the Associated Press reported in 2025 in the wake of President Donald Trump's announcement that Stargate, a joint venture between OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle, will invest up to $500 billion in AI-related infrastructure. Texas will serve as ground zero with 10 data centers by the venture already under construction in the state, 10 more on the way, and the first project based in Albion, Texas. Oracle CEO Larry Ellison said, "Each building will occupy 500,000 square feet." Cummins officials said the company is expanding its role supporting the North American data center market with natural gas fuel generator sets and integrated microgrid controls designed to address the power grid constraints, improve reliability, and enable fast start response. Capabilities in an area of unprecedented AI demand. Cummins is supporting Cersei's behind-the-meter power need for the A1 HPC data center campuses, including its West Texas campus development, by utilizing two of Cummins' high-horsepower natural gas generator sets as the primary power source without reliability on the grid. The legislature is to again take up job creation resolutions. Mayville. Fred Larson is continuing his push to make job creation the number one goal of the Chautauqua County Legislature. Larson, a Democrat of Jamestown, pre-filed a resolution for Wednesday night's Chautauqua County Legislature meeting entitled "Declaring Job Creation the Number One Economic Development Goal." The resolution was not reviewed by any of the legislature committees in June and was sent to committee for a review for a possible vote next month. During the discussion, Larson said he felt the resolution was simple enough to not need to be reviewed in committee. He read the entire resolution, which only has 4 whereas clauses and 2 resolved clauses. In it, the resolution notes jobs lost Bush Industries, Serta Mattress, Trucklight, Monofrex, Carriage House, and Petrie Baking, totaling around 1,500 positions. The resolution also states that Chautauqua County has lost more population since the 2010 census at the highest rate of any western New York county. The resolution, which hasn't been passed, states that the county is declaring job creation as the number one goal and calls for government grants, payments in lieu of tax agreements, which are abbreviated to pilots, exemption from sales taxes and mortgage taxes, low interest loans, and taxpayer-funded infrastructure improvements be directed at private investment that will create jobs for our residents. Last year, when the county legislators set goals and objectives for the county planning department, Larson wanted to have a job creation listed as the number one goal. His proposal was rejected. A month later, Democratic legislator Bob Bankowski of Dunkirk introduced a resolution declaring job growth as the number one goal of the county economic efforts development for 2026 to 29. Before a vote was held on that resolution, Republicans introduced a substitute resolution. That modified resolution stated the County Industrial Development Agency and the county legislature will continue to make job creation and retention by businesses a top priority, with the understanding that the CCIDA, not the county's Department of Planning and Development, has the tools and resources and is uniquely qualified to fulfill this objective. On Wednesday, Larson said he did not want to see his resolution sent to committee, arguing that Republicans will water it down like they did with Bankowski's resolution. I just don't understand what the Republican Economic Development Committee is going to do other than take my simple declarative resolution containing only facts and turn it into another 2026 monstrosity that's filled with excuses and misleading information, and refusing to have this government go on record as making the addition of new employment, new jobs, and new companies our number one economic development priority, he said. The legislature's Planning and Economic Development Committee has 4 Republicans on it and 1 Democrat. Larson was previously a member of the committee, but was reassigned at the beginning of the year. Larson implied he was upset about his committee reassignment when he was invited to attend the July Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting to discuss his resolution. I won't be attending a committee that I served on about 6 or 7 times under Republican chairman going back to '86 that I no longer serve on, he said. Still, Legislator Bob Scudder, Republican of Fredonia, noted the resolution introduced by Larson is not an emergency and should be reviewed before a final vote. That's our general way of proceeding. We've sent other resolutions to committees that haven't come through here, he said. Larson admitted that if it does go to committee, it will bring further attention to the issue. I should be happy to have you send it to committee because the newspaper and the radios can talk about this issue in July as well as June. That suits my purposes, he said, adding, but I'd rather this body acknowledge that our people, our young families, the 230 people that lost their jobs at Bush a month or so ago, a certain percentage of them are going to leave the community. The vote to send the resolution to committee passed along partisan lines, with 12 Republican legislators voting in favor and 7 Democrats voting no. The city is holding the line on expenses as tax collection lags, by M.J. Stafford. The city of Dunkirk is still $1.5 million ahead on our expenses for the year so far, Fiscal Affairs Officer Ellen Luzgawiak said at the most recent Common Council Finance meeting. However, Clerk Treasurer Amy Dobeck reported the city still has not taken in $1.8 million of its property tax levies for the year. The city has roughly $7 million in the bank, but that's got to get us through the end of the year, Luzgawiak said. She noted the city has not received all of its revenues for the year, including the State Consolidated Highway Improvement Program and some other things. The other things apparently included the tax money that Dobeck later mentioned. She said the city is still collecting property tax through the end of July, and people who haven't paid by then will be hearing from Chautauqua County, which will take over collection at the time. Meanwhile, the city has an overall deficit of well over $1 million. The Utah governor is restricting fireworks as the largest U.S. wildfire surge is uncontained. Utah's governor restricted setting off fireworks and declared a state of emergency Friday ahead of the July fireworks season as the nation's largest wildfire grew much bigger. The National Weather Service issued a rare extreme weather warning as dry, windy conditions provided fuel for many more fires across the United States. The Cottonwood Fire in southern Utah, which started Monday, reached nearly 111 square acres Friday and was entirely uncontained, forestry officials said. One of 6 large wildfires burning across Utah, it severely damaged the Eagle Point Ski Resort in Beaver County, forcing mandatory evacuations. Towering clouds of smoke could be seen for hundreds of miles all the way to Colorado. This is unlike anything we've seen in recent memory, State Forester Jamie Barnes said in a statement Thursday. We're seeing fires spread farther and faster under conditions that defy historical expectations. Some of the fires we've responded to this year are behaving in ways veteran firefighters simply haven't seen before. Much of Utah is experiencing extreme drought, while parts of Arizona and Colorado are also experiencing severe drought, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor. Governor Spencer Cox set the temporary fireworks restrictions through July 5th as the nation prepares for its 250th anniversary, saying, "This year is different." The National Weather Service in Salt Lake City, for the first time in the office's history, issued a particularly dangerous situation warning for 5 Utah counties, including the area of Cottonwood. The rare alert is usually reserved for tornado conditions. A red flag warning was issued for most of the state. Prepare now for rapid fire growth, it said. Extreme fire conditions were expected, with winds gusting up to 50 miles per hour and low humidity across Utah's southwest desert and central and southern mountains, including the area of Cottonwood fire. Rocky Mountain Power issued a public safety power shutoff watch warning for areas central, southern, and eastern Utah from Friday through the weekend. Meanwhile, the Iron Fire, about 70 miles southwest of Salt Lake City, blackened 63 square miles by Friday and was 26% contained. It forced the evacuation of Eureka, a population of 1,000, as well as people at a nearby ranch. They were allowed to return on Thursday. Cox's order noted that since the beginning of the fire season, more than 75% of Utah's wildfires have been human-caused. It also said Barnes has already implemented some firework prohibitions. The government order gives power to Barnes to decide on fireworks displays in Utah's communities. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer. We read from the Dunkirk Observer every Saturday at noon. Your reader has been Lenny Mann, and thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of our Northtown Bee papers, which includes Amherst, Clarence, Cheektowaga, Depew, and Lancaster. At 2 o'clock, we have our Southtown papers, which is the Orchard Park Bee, East Aurora Bee, West Seneca Bee, and Hamburg Sun. Following that, 3 o'clock is the Ampole Eagle. Stay with us. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book,